All right. Good afternoon. Today we're going to do some holiday updates, and I apologize for not taking a shave, but it's the weekend, and not every day we're going to keep it professional in these videos. So we have one of my secretaries has decided to join us. It's little Mama. Y'all may have known her. She got real sick. We had a big infection because most of you know that have been around this channel a long time know that I've got about 22 cats, and we had a bad run with upper respiratory infection. So she's doing better now. But today I want to give the updates for 2022, 2023 as well. And for those of you that have questions, this is a live video which will allow you an opportunity to ask questions you'd like. So as we get started, one thing that I've noticed for 2022 in relation to Section 8 housing and low-income housing, at least with all of our clients, is we're seeing a lot more turnout for vouchers. They issued roughly 20,000, as many of you remember, in October 1st. And now what I'm starting to see is, compared to a gigantic history, 22 years this coming summer that I've been in the business. And look, looks like she's decided she's going to groom my hair while we're doing the video. But what I'm seeing is multiple offers, a lot more offers per client than I've ever seen before. And when in one case, we were doing casework for a particular lady out of California, and she received 6 offers of vouchers. And also, as an update, as many of you don't know, we're in negotiations with a rather large multi-state real estate company. I posted on our community page or email communications. There will be roughly 2,300 homes. These are not apartments. These are not ramshackle shacks or shotgun houses for sale. These are homes that they so desirably want to contract with us to fill with Section 8. And by the way, that's her brother, and he's decided to join us in the video. He, unfortunately, is still suffering a little bit of eye infection. By the way, y'all see all the holes in my lovely chair? That's about a $400 chair I bought, mainly for back support. They have popped holes into it like confetti. And then, of course, I mentioned earlier today, I posted a picture of what it looks like, the 36 paper towel rolls I got in the cabinet, and turned that into confetti overnight. So that was... It's always interesting. Even when you're off, you think you're off for the weekend, you're still working to maintain the herd of cats we keep around here. Anyways, just keeping it interesting. So back to that. As soon as we sign a contractual agreement with that particular company, I will apprise y'all of what 4 states those houses are available. And I will try to contractually make it part of the agreement if I can to service those of you that are clients, and as well as those that are viewers on the channel, that have first shots at these homes. Okay. Normally, this company would be so in reserve for that of market rate, meaning that they'd only want to deal with people who have a job. But they've reversed course, and they're really looking to get these homes on the market. These are nice homes. These are not junkers. It's not your standard Section 8 junk. Okay. And this is a big multi-million-dollar operation, and it's a corporate company, but it's going to be my goal to work with them to approve the applications, which means for those of you that live in those particular states, once we get into that, it'll allow you an unparalleled opportunity to get housing in a way that you never thought you could. Okay. Second to that, for holiday updates, Insider Magazine's contacted us again. I posted that result in an email communication. So we've been working with them. So it does lend a little bit of legitimacy to the care and benefit of those of you that I do casework for that wonder about results. So as October 1st approached, we got the 20,000 vouchers. We're seeing a higher turnout and a higher success rate that I've probably seen through my career span, because more people are getting offers of vouchers. In addition to that, we passed the summer period. That period during summer is the most difficult because that's when everybody wants a voucher. That's when everybody wants to move. And so that's what I call high season. When you reach September through about March of next year, that's your golden period. That's when the number of people that want these vouchers go down exponentially by half. You coincide that with the fact that they flooded the market with the 20,000 vouchers. They've also now adapted FMRs, or small fair market rates, which means the vouchers that you would have got during summer, if you'd even get one, that means fundamentally the vouchers you'd get today are now matching the crazy rents, which means it's a better time. So here comes that warning I'm going to give you guys. As we approach Christmas, that means, in starting December 1st, it means you've got four good months left. When the end of March hits, the game is over with. We all know that. I warn y'all every year. If you're sitting on the if you're sitting on the sideline watching and waiting, you better get moving by December 1st, okay? Because in most cases, with the 700 to 1,000 clients we work with a year, I would tell you that if you don't start getting booked up, either with my company or another, and you try to get this done quickly, then you're making a big mistake, because the closer we get to the new federal budget at the beginning of the year and through January, February, and March, the worse this is likely to go. Still a good period, but I'm just saying that you're going to end up having a case where it's going to expand towards the summer, and that's a bad thing. So I would say react if you can. Okay, for those of you DIY, go do it yourself. I made over 700 videos over a decade on YouTube, so there's no shortage of knowledge. I keep it pretty accurate. I know that 2023 is fixing to hit, and of course, new policies. And we'll have to remake a whole lot of videos to re-educate on new policies, procedures, standards, Code of Federal Regulation, Title 24, and so on. Looks like we got somebody in the channel, Frog Stomp. Now, that's the interesting name of the day. How are you today? I'm doing good, Frog Stomp. Frog Stomp says, I have until December to find a place with the housing choice voucher. That's a short, tight timeline, my friend. That barely gives you 20 days, right? So I'm assuming that means December 1st. So beyond that, I tell you guys, I haven't seen any more remarkable news coming out of HUD lately, and from director reports or anything else. So I would say, oops, powdered donut I ate earlier. I would say to you that probably as good as we're going to get is what we have now. I know the market's been pretty good. Sonia Bowden, it's been a minute. How are you? Oh, what? Sonia, that's you. Okay. So it turns out our client's got 2 YouTube channels, or names at least. So now I'm going to take a quick sip of my holiday cheer. I've got these new, what do you call them? Leaf glasses. They look kind of like Thanksgiving glasses. For all intended purposes for YouTube and their strict policies, I'm having a cup of grape juice. Okay. You never know if alcohol's permitted in videos. So having a little bit of grape juice. Oh, goodness. Don't ever buy your grape juice at a gas station. It's pretty rough. Beyond that, guys, we're also going to see a new rollout of policies, procedures, and data standards for the new year. And another thing that I'm noticing is there's a lot more housing authorities starting to open right now. Matter of fact, across the state of California, Florida, Texas, and many other states up the East Coast, I'm seeing a higher volume of housing. Isn't it interesting that housing authorities are mainly closed all the way through summer when you're at peak? But during the holidays, when they know it's not peak season, they magically just somehow open. So we're seeing a lot more housing authorities interested in giving people vouchers. And of course, the crowd of people that want it is now 60% lower than it normally is during the other months out the year. So I'd say we're probably in the best part of the season. All right, guys. So, the video also is including information. And for those of you that have questions in relation to Section 8, low-income housing, Section 42, Section 811, VAWA, HOPWA, PSH, and all the many other types of vouchers, programs, and subsections of federal code, this would be now the time to ask, including discriminatory acts and things that may be related to HUD's regional, HUD's DC office, cases where you have unethical practices by housing authorities, landlords, and other discriminatory or harassing behaviors. All those questions could be addressed now. Well, I should have assumed that Saturday videos are never that popular, but I'm okay with it. I think we've got 8 live people. So, well, we'll call you Love because that name is interesting. And what are the average wait times to be on a wait list with the housing authority? Well, if you did it by yourself, the average waiting time would be about 8 to 15 years. With a company like myself, my clients are waiting on an average of 2 to 4 months. Okay. So you say, well, why such a big difference? Well, it's simple. anything that's designed and engineered and underwritten by the U.S. government or underwritten by companies like Ned McKay that write all the policies and procedures for most housing authorities in America, if you write laws and you stack them over 80 years, eventually you're going to write things in there that leak these gaping holes. Also, as a perfect example, let's talk about a cornfield in Iowa. If most of you believe that you can only get a voucher in your zip code from the housing authority right down the street, that's the first mistake that you bought into. That's not true. You could technically get you can get a voucher from any county in America, including Puerto Rico and Hawaii, including our contentious territories. Number two, they also tell you, oh, by the way, you got to use that voucher in our county for at least 12 months before you can port it. That's not true either, roughly 60% of the time, which means if I have the whole country as a playground, it means I can initiate portability relatively quick. I can think of 6 subsections of federal code where you could utilize exceptions to get portability. Then through arbitration and other issues. So in other words, let's bring it back to Iowa and the cornfield. If that cornfield in Iowa has a housing authority with a bunch of wealthy ranchers, and the housing authority's got a bunch of vouchers sitting in the drawer, but nobody really needs it, we approach them. They say, oh, well, Mr. Roulette, there's a 2-year waiting list. That's another deception. That 2-year waiting list is if you gave the worst applications, the worst possible answers, then you would be the last person at the end of 2 years. Well, what about the first month, the second month? They don't just issue vouchers once every 2 years. You see the delusion of how they tell people that? It's very deceptive. So if you have incredibly good answers, you matched all the preferences, and the maximum line, if the worst answer, the most stupid person applied, is 2 years, then what would our clients be? Months. Now you understand. But that's just an element and a layer of a cake that's much bigger. There are other things. Let's consider this. If a housing authority is running off policies, procedures, and they indicate in there that you need to have preferences, a senior, a veteran, disabled, domestic violence, and other factors that would rank you higher or lower up a list, then each one of those factors in combination could considerably, the more you have, would likely send you up the list to receive a voucher much quicker. But that's not all of it. The housing authority will allow anybody to apply. Oh, our doors are open, come apply. But that doesn't mean anything either. Let me tell you why. They are funded federally, they are an open public business, which means under state and federal open request, I can command those people to tell me specifically how they're funded. There's where your magic comes in. So what is the magic we're speaking about? Well, the magic with housing authorities is simply this. Each one of those funding levels, veterans, the homeless, domestic violence victims, and other people that are extreme low income and all the other preferences, what happens if the housing authority receives $1 million from the homeless, $2 million for domestic violence, another $1 million for seniors? That means that 98% of people that applied that didn't match those factors, they're allowed to apply, and then what they do is they take the application and throw it in the trash. They're not going to tell you how they're funded, because if you understood how they were funded, then you know the reasons in which they would grant a voucher. If you understood the reasons in which they would grant the voucher on those particular preferences, then you could roll through hundreds of counties and housing authorities until you could yield results like our company does. So do you have to wait 8 to 15 years? And how long does it take? If you do it, it'll take you forever. They'll come and they'll dig you up, knock on your coffin door, and then grant you a voucher. Okay? So clearly there are proprietary things that we do, but unless you want to sit down and read 500,000 pages of policies, procedures, and state data standards, I would say to you that it's a lot to understand before you can step back, then see where the gaping holes are. Let's second that theory. The second theory here is, HUD, being the federal agency that receives funding from Congress and so on, get that money. They allocate it. So HUD's job is only 2 jobs. I'm getting to a point, don't worry. The first job is to allocate the money to each state, which in turn allocates down to counties, and then the housing authorities receive funds. HUD also mandates certain and very specific rights that people have. Now, those rights, this is where it gets interesting. It's boilerplate. Every housing authority is allowed to take and modify those to match the local community and the needs of that community. In other words, if you got a consultant that's on YouTube like myself, or unlike me, That's, oh yeah, I'm making a video about Section 8. Here is the 5 tips and tricks to go get a voucher tomorrow, which is full of shit, right? Well, let's be honest. If you don't know how to compel a housing authority at the federal level to turn over their policies, their manuals, operations, and procedures, which would give you the same insight as the executive level employees, if you in turn had those manuals, you could exploit the shit out of them legally, right? Nobody needs to lie, cheat, or steal. But if you had that, then you'd understand how to reverse engineer it. If you understand reverse engineering, it just simply means that if you don't qualify, if we know that there's secretly or 5 things you need to have in order to get them to grant a voucher quickly, then you need to know them. Now, what happens? You get to let you go. Well, I'm not that. Well, hey, you've got till you the day you apply to become that. See, that's the difference between lying, cheating, and stealing. If you're not something and you understand the true intent of the law, then you can make sure your life matches that pretense, and then you become and you match that list. Now you're starting to see. I told you, if you're going to play a rigged game, if you're going to play a game where housing authority don't want to give shit to anybody, then the only other way to play the game is to be smarter. Don't play a rigged game unless you plan on winning. Why do I call it rigged? Because anytime we're hiring people that barely even have a GED, and this is not an offense to anybody, including those that didn't even graduate 5th grade. I'm not trying to offend at that level. What I'm saying is, if you're driving through McDonald's and a young girl in the window is serving you a cheeseburger, and then you go down an hour later, you drive the housing authority, now she's your caseworker, and she's going to determine out of her own pretense whether or not she likes white, brown, black, and yellow, whether or not she likes you as a Democrat or Republican. She decides she's having a good or bad day. Do you see the point? If you take somebody that's not paid enough, they're not going to put integrity in the type of work. Now, if any of you think that you can call the housing authority and they're going to educate you, or teach you how to get them fired, no, that's not their job. Their only job is to weed you out. That's what we call probing to eliminate, and to get rid of your ass. So a lot of people are making decisions there, little boys and girls. Now, what does it take to, let's talk about what it takes to work in a housing authority. What does it take? It doesn't even take a college degree. For about $100, you can go get a little certificate, almost out the bubblegum machine, and you can thus become a housing authority employee. I'm not saying executive level. So now you understand why you have angry little children working there that have attitudes, don't want to answer the phone, to talk to you like a hooker on 3rd Street. If I'm wrong about that, get on the phone with the housing authority and just see how much love and joy you get. I deal with this shit every day. So I don't need to lie about it. I deal with it every day from a company perspective, shaven or unshaven. So let's be real. So, when playing the game, if you can understand to engineer something and unengineer it, and you want to get your client something fast, then consider the cornfield in Iowa as an example, okay? Now, again, there's more proprietary things that obviously our company does to help people, but we're not violating any federal laws. We're not breaking anything. We, in fact, employ a law firm out of Dallas that defensively helps our company in any situation to get sticky. And to be frank with you, over these years of making these videos, do you know how many former and current housing authority employees, including former directors of housing authorities, that email and call our company because they used to work at a housing authority, they hated their job, they hated the way that people were treated, and so in turn, they turn over everything to our company, everything, policies, procedures, manual. I got former directors of major cities that have said, I worked in that shit show. I'd love nothing more than to help your clients. Here's everything we've got. Here's how you get around this part A. Here's how you get around part B. Now, you do this for 22 years. You build up an arsenal, an army of people, former and current, that feed you enough information to destroy housing authorities. Now, we as a company our principle is not to destroy anybody. It's simply to help people that really don't have a fair fucking chance to start with. Let's be honest. Now, I understand some of you here in this video, you're looking for a professional and all that, but let's be honest with each other. Most of you that have survived with very little income, you're trying to get housing, the last thing you need is somebody to lie to you. So we can't, if profanities offend you or the rough nature of my videos, and there's lots of people that make silly little videos, little girls and boys that make videos on YouTube, the 3 easy tips and tricks. One day they're an expert at fidget spinners, the next day they're experts at toilet paper, and now they're the master consultant of all consulting. No legitimacy. They're not registered with any state, but they're writing fucking books. They're having subscriptions to silly shit, and they're giving out the most absurd advice. So that's your option. You can take somebody that's brute force like me, that actually prove that actually has that background, or you can wander around the halls of YouTube and take advice from little boys and girls that don't know shit. Okay, they're there for the little wooden nickels they make off of YouTube. I could care less whether these videos ever made me a single copper penny. The point is, if we don't educate people, then people will continue to insufferably fill out applications. They'll continue to wait a lifetime. And between the other issues, between bigotry and racism and other issues that plague the housing authorities, the different attitudes, being prejudicial, judging people by age, and so many other things, but how are we ever going to yield the voucher fairly? The housing authority cannot continue to just help the person mowing his lawn get a voucher and their private maid. You see the point? Now, if you know the director of the housing authority and you're at the Christmas party, I can assure you they're handing out vouchers to friends, families, and constituents like they're gift cards. But the mere mortals that need these fuckers go and apply, and they can't get anything. You see the point? Because you got to be judged. This system was designed, in my opinion, to fail. It's a big fucking mess. I unwind it every week, man, weeks and weeks and years. So either I've got the best story that was ever delivered across the pages of YouTube, or it's reality. All right, let me get to some of these comments, but I'm going to take another little sip of my holiday cheer. Sonia Valley goes on, my brother's disabled and he receives a Social Security check. Should he go about getting a voucher? Well, Sonia, as you always know, that's a complex question. Of course, he should go after a voucher. I mean, doing nothing's never going to solve anything. Lori D, good afternoon. How are you and happy holidays? Lori D goes on to say, it was once my turn for a voucher. Taught the employees there about how many of the forms and codes already in them, so I didn't have to go to the Social Security office for the waiting time. True. I do believe you guys. So right now, just like the stock market, we kind of watch that kind of go up the hill. And those of you that trade in crypto and all that good stuff, the market is still crazy. 7% interest rates in homes and all that. The reason I'm bringing these examples, when these 20,000 vouchers they issued back on October 1st, plus the good season pass, if you think there's been some miserable summers where you couldn't get jack, wait till you see when this well of vouchers dries up this summer. And I mean January, February, March, April, starting in April. When that dries up, a lot of you guys run our company, and I'm probably just going to close for a month or two because it's just no point. It's going to all dry up. If you guys don't start getting out there and getting these applications in, or at least working somebody that understands the system in its entirety, in its principle, you're going to be in trouble by this summer. Big trouble. And especially for those of you on the East Coast, the West Coast, Florida, man, you're really going to get it bad. Because then you're really going to be hoping on a star. So let this be your first warning. The second one I'm going to issue is going to be for the new year, January 1st. That if you don't react, man, oh man, you're talking about some tough times. Very tough times. Well, guys, in consideration of all those things, I'm going to give you some personal updates. And again, I want to say this about personal updates. I had a gentleman one day comment the channel just recently, about 2 weeks ago. He goes, "Oh man, I didn't know this was a cooking channel." I got a smart ass about it. Let me be very frank. It's my channel. I'll talk about my cats or whatever it is I want. I do not need his permission to do so. I've always done so because I think that we'd all be bored to death if your only job was to sit here and watch a middle-aged man ramble on for an hour. So I do inject other things of curiosity or interest. But if I get comments like that, I will put your ass out my channel, and then you can go visit Big Bob that sells tickets, or you can take advice from Sally that says if you bring a hot pizza and a soda to the housing authority, that her advice is going to get you a voucher tomorrow. There's lots of lunatics on YouTube. Okay, these people aren't even companies. They're children in the basements using mommy's flip phone to make videos. So trust me when I tell you, it only takes a minute to look around Google and YouTube to figure out who's real and who's not. So beyond that, I think this year also we're going to be doing another collaboration. Also, and I want to bring this up real quick. We're going to be doing. There's a lady, and I'm going to be bringing her name up in another video. She works out of Detroit. She is a killer real estate agent. For those of you living in Michigan or Detroit, we're going to be doing a collaboration with her. I call her the Queen of Section 8. She's really good. Just like I also deal with the King of Section 8 on TikTok. Real good guys. So we do collaborations with people, but I vet people to make sure they're not frauds. I don't do collaborations as a goal to verify my company or myself, but I do them with people that I know that are actually not doing any harm to our community, especially people. I mean, I deal with 20,000 or more. All right, moving on. Lori D goes on to say the county employees were busted for giving vouchers to whomever they chose. We had an instance of that in Houston, Texas. They hired a man, basically a little more off of Craigslist. He discovered that they had special use vouchers. Let me tune you into special use so you guys understand what that is. Did you know that even when a housing authority is closed and has been closed for a decade, don't want to give nobody a voucher? Did you know that they hold up to 14% of all the vouchers they receive in reserve, and that they can find any special purpose whatsoever to give out those vouchers, even on a closed list? Now, that's intended for things like federal or county witnesses or people that are high pollutant, basically. That's what they call special use. And so this gentleman in Harris County, dealing with the housing authority here, was selling them for $5,000 a piece. I can't think of something more egregious than doing that. Now, if we type in the word HUD lawsuit housing authority, over 100 housing authorities have been sued or under the investigation of DOJ. It is you've got people just doing whatever they want. They're trampling civil rights, federal rights, violating federal code at every level, and they're not put in check. Why? Because most people that need a voucher are so scared of retaliation, they won't report it. We report hundreds of cases every year, DOJ, FHEO, HUD. And believe it or not, as much shit as I talk about local housing authorities, I have a deep level of respect for HUD, because HUD's not your housing authority. I deeply respect that agency. I wish they funded it like they do our war machine. They don't. But yeah, it's sad. But we take it rather seriously. That's why we decided a year ago to bring on a law firm to be able to send out demand letters and other things and part of our clients to stop this behavior. Moving on from that, Eleanor Lee wrote, "Hi Jay, the Section 8 housing buying program still require you to take a credit in HUD?" Yes, there's still classes. Now, just to be clear about that, Mr. and Mrs. Rowe, most housing authorities have their own concepts of classes, some which may just be a few videos, others you have to participate. Of course, you have lender requirements as well, but yes, in most cases, yes. Gene Gurnett, wow. Well, I can only assume you're either saying wow from the things I've said or wow from the things I'm reporting. RH, can you please help me get the Section 8 voucher for a home? Well, let's think about this, RH. You must first have a voucher before you can get in the home ownership program, HUD home ownership program. Now, 20 years ago, the HUD home ownership program was something that was available at most housing authorities in America. It has been whittled down to nothing, and as of 2016, it's really small. So only certain housing authorities in America actually even have that. Yes, that's it. So just to answer your question, yes. And I'm going to post some links there for you, RH. I would say reach out to our company. Man, I can't believe I really did forget to shave. Well, I tell you, I'm having a rough Saturday. Gene Garcia says, wow, to the things you just said. Well, I think that people hunting for vouchers, applying for vouchers, you've been given the runaround. I think eventually you could either take advice from somebody that's full of pleasantries and that doesn't know how to deliver the truth, or you can take it as broadly as I give it. People can lie to enough. I'm not going to pull any punches with you guys. I never have. I've been doing this too long. There's no reason to keep it super Christian. It's my clients need to hear the truth. If you cannot deal with adversity and other issues, you'll never survive trying to get a voucher. So the truth has to be parallel to everything. And I'm prepared to be quoted back and forth. Matter of fact, guys, let me pull up something real quick. I want to show you just a little bit of this dialogue. Give me a moment. So, first thing I'm going to show you guys, I keep a long log, things that our company's been involved in. So here's one for Monique Burns. She is the queen of Section 8. This is EY, the section guy, the biggest Section 8 consultant on TikTok, reaching out to our company. Okay, even the biggest ones in all social media defer right back to my company because we're bigger than all of them. This right here is a communication by email from Insider Magazine. Unless you're just legally blind, I'm pretty sure what it says. And then this is Kirch Realty. This is their CEO, a corporate operating office, reaching out to us for those 2,300 homes. This is an additional Insider Magazine requests for an interview. If I'm not talking about the truth, and I actually don't know my job, and I'm just a rodeo clown making videos, then why would multi-million-dollar companies, multi-million-dollar or billion-dollar news agencies reach out to my company? Here's another one. This is Julia Ryle, and this is from Arizona State University. Email communication, requesting an interview. And I'm going to bring up a few other things in case you guys are wondering about it. We do file with the Secretary of State, the IRS, Texas State Controller. And I'll just stop there for now, okay? Because it's a big book. It's 5 of them. So, as an example, we work with a tremendous amount of people. I think we have a well-established presence. And to be honest with you, if I could show you live, our channel gets a lot of traffic from .govs from nearly every state. So I sometimes feel like they're investigating to make sure that if we're to be audited, that we're actually doing a good job and that we're not defrauding people. And to this day, I don't have a negative review against our company. Of course, we're not always successful. And let me say this about doing work for the community. If your heart's not in this stuff and you aren't actually really good at it, then there's no point. There's simply no point. I spent a lot of years doing this. And let me give you a great example through the pandemic. We attempted as a nation to evict up to 40 million people. Many of those calls were little old ladies, 70s, 80s, 90s, and older, calling in tears, prepared to take their own life, and they couldn't get housing. Now, as a consultant, if you look on those rings in my eyes, as a consultant or a company, ethically and morally speaking, how do you lay down at night knowing you've got a 90-year-old woman sleeping in her car? She's had everything in her life liquidated, and that I'm supposed to just accept her money and go to bed with a clear fucking conscience. That I'm gambling with her money to get her a voucher. If I was doing that, my friends, I wouldn't exist. The feds and DOJ would have been in our office doors a long time ago. If I didn't actually care about these people or even the cats I deal with, then what would it be? It'd be a lot of what you see on many of these channels. Clowns. People that participate basically as a child's party clown at a party. Don't know shit about this system. I've spent nearly half my career trying to know as much as I possibly could to read all this stuff. And let's be frank, how many times have I got on the phone with a housing authority employee, been out there maybe a week or two, and there's always one good resolve that you get from that conversation with them. When I start quoting verbatim federal law, title and act, one after another, without even taking a breath, that phone line goes dead. Why? Because I just murdered that conversation. They know their ass is in deep, and they can't even talk shit like they normally do to normal people. They understand at that point. Then they get levied by 6, 7 different demand letters from a law office that ain't playing with them. So I don't deal in Mickey Mouse remedies. I'm exceptional. I've had housing authorities put me on speakerphone just so they can get somebody in the fucking office that can actually compete in the conversation with me, because for every stroke of what they've got to say, I can back it with federal law. Do I have a what do they call that? A photographic memory? No, but it's good enough where I can destroy the conversation to even top tier housing authority employees. I know their system. I know how to play that system, and when I don't, to this day, when I do, I have little parts. I've got former directors to feed me enough when I get on there. It's little more than a wrecking train. I take great pride and I take great pleasure in getting my clients what they need. And I got to tell you, there's no bigger reward than winning. Okay. Now, clearly, I'm not sitting in the mansion. I'm not driving a Benz. Most of the money I make ends up back in the company anyways, or dealing with 2 office managers, but we get the job done. So I just want to give you that as a leveling example. You can either get it right, or you get it wrong. All right, guys. So moving back to comments here, Deborah Marvin, I took my class. Credits great. I'm ready. What to do now? Well, you got to wait on the next policies for your housing authority and probably meet the lender requirements. Gail Thornberry, another thing, can a landlord put air conditioning and heat on a digital system so the tenant has no control? Absolutely not. Well, they can, but they'd have to administer that equally to all tenants and all units. Oh. Well, it's been a fun and interesting video. I think I'm going to wrap it up. I expected y'all guys had more questions, but I did pick a bad day. Saturday's not the best time to make videos, but I'm not looking for a large audience. If I can help even 1 or 2 people to educate or to teach, and many of my former clients actually teach others, which is good, because a big part of my job is, people book casework. There's not a situation where I relegate people to some low-tiered employee at my company. So that allows people to be able to speak to me when they wish to, as long as we're open during office hours and so on. It gives you an unparalleled opportunity to have access to somebody like me that's a walking book. Okay? And to be able to call or email when they wish, to not be relegated to idiot employees, and to not receive the terrible customer service we do virtually every other business. I take great pride in that. And of course, almost every conversation with any client we ever deal with is always asking about the cats. They're such a big part of the channel. And I'm going to tell you a short story about that real quick. About 4 or 5 years ago, Big Pop's one of my big cats. He popped in a video, and little to my understanding, that the video blew up, and I didn't understand why. Everybody went cuckoo about my cats, and I was like, well, "What's the big damn deal?" I make all these videos. Nobody's racing to get excited about that too much. Then I discovered, of course, the incorporation of my cats was a very good point. I think that all people that create videos and that are on YouTube trying to do a little bit of justice, incorporating part of your personal life, because it's quite upsetting when people's lives are destroyed by housing authorities that are unjudiciously and preferentially giving out vouchers to people that shouldn't even have them. So it sucks, Deborah Marvel says, I want to also thank you for the last video I watched. It was very informative. It had me thinking about multi-family homes. Excellent, that it did help. Well, guys, I'm going to wrap it up. I'm going to enjoy the rest of my Saturday and finish my cup of holiday cheer here. And we bought a little fire pit. And it's interesting trying to get 16-inch logs into the fire pit. Hopefully, try not to burn the house down, but it's been a little bit of fun. We finally got some cool weather in Texas. So, detox RWC, I guess we will. And then his message was retracted by YouTube instantly. I don't know why. Guess we'll find out later. Well, guys, I want you to enjoy that. And also, I want you to enjoy your holidays. We're going to be making a video, clearly a few more. It's getting harder. In the early days, I made lots of videos every week. It's getting harder because we have more and more clients. It's getting harder to, used to I just make 3 videos a week. Now I'm barely getting one out every 2 weeks. And that's because the demand is extremely high during this time of season. So I'm doing the best I can, to still educate. And we're going to make a lot more. And another thing is, January 1st, all this changes. Everything we think we know, it all changes. HUD's policies, the housing authority, to change all that, and then I'm going to have to reteach everything from Section 8, Housing Choice Voucher, Section 811, Section 808, Section 202, PSH, RRH, all these different vouchers and funding systems will fundamentally change. And I have to re-update you guys. That's why I tell you, reading these old articles on Google about Section 8 housing and, 8 easy tips, tricks, that's always been bullshit. I don't know why y'all read that. It's not even real people. Somebody wrote an article about 10 years ago, and then all the news agencies use automated software to re-roll that garbage, and then they create it as a new article, and you believe it like it's the Bible. Look, those people that are reporters don't know shit about anything. Why do you think they call our office incessantly? I must talk to probably 30 of them a month, hoping to get better information than the trash they're publishing. And anytime they're giving advice with bullet points, you know that you're off the chain, because didn't we just discuss every housing authority has its own policy? So even if that reporter lived in Atlanta and they're basing the knowledge they're giving you, it'd only be good for the housing authority in Atlanta, because every single housing authority in every single county in America is going to operate differently. There is not a boilerplate system for this. That requires me hosting it most times somewhere around 2,300 manuals or more. And at the peak, it was 1,700. Okay? Then that's not including hundreds, if not thousands, of pages on other policies and procedures. So it's a lot to read, man. You do a lot of reading. All right, guys. So enjoy y'all's holiday there, and we'll have a few more coming hopefully next Sunday, maybe Tuesday. All right? Have a great day.